Former Republican nominee Mitt Romney making headlines at his annual summit, reaffirming he will not vote for presumptive Republican nominee Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton this November. But he did suggest he might be open to the Libertarian ticket. Right now, Romney's big shindig is underway in Utah, and the stakes have never been higher. He's got a power-packed guest list out there. RNC Chair Reince Priebus, Speaker Paul Ryan. They're in Utah raising money for down-ballot Republican candidates. But officials on the ground say Romney's summit will not be a fertile fundraising ground for Donald Trump, as Romney's very public objections to Mr. Trump intensify.
I don't want to see trickle-down racism. I don't want to see a president of the United States saying things which change the character of the generations of Americans that are following. Presidents have an impact on the nature of our nation. And trickle-down racism, trickle-down bigotry, trickle-down misogyny, all these things are extraordinarily dangerous to the heart and character of America.
We have Governor Mike Huckabee here with us on all of that. But first, we go to Leland Vittert. He's live in Park City, Utah for the details. Leland.
Evening, Trish. And you might imagine that Mitt Romney, after saying all those things, would offer some other idea. The only idea he said was what he knows he won't do, saying he will not be the guy to try and take on Donald Trump or be a spoiler, in his words. This meeting here is not only top staff, but the who's who of donors from the 2012 presidential campaign. And you might think that this magnificent vista here would soften everyone's feelings. Well, it hasn't. With few exceptions, folks here are upset, almost resigned to the fact that Donald Trump could become the president of the United States. And they are angry about it. They are worried about it. Some of the speakers here, though, are folks who have been behind Donald Trump. Take, for example, Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, who has endorsed Donald Trump. Well, he wants to come here and talk about the GOP's anti-poverty agenda that he's unveiled in the House. Folks here want to talk to him about why he's gotten behind Trump and if he can try and control Trump. RNC Chair Reince Priebus also coming here. He wants to talk about party unity. Folks here want to talk about the dysfunction in the RNC that they see as what gave rise to Donald Trump and allowed him to become the presumptive nominee. Now, the big question here, the $1 million question, you might even say the $1 billion question among these big donors is, all right, most everyone here agrees that they don't want Trump to be the president, but is anyone willing to actually do something about it rather than just talk about it? Here is Romney's national finance chair from his 2012 campaign. Is there an appetite for Plan B? Is there money for Plan B?
Oh, I think there would certainly be money for Plan B. There would be an appetite for many people for a Plan B, but I don't think there's an option for a Plan B. You know, the process is, Donald Trump has gone through the process. He will be the Republican nominee. There's nobody that I've talked to that's planning a third-party run.
Now, folks here are really pushing back on the concept that this is a meeting of the never-Trumps or there's some kind of plan being hatched here. But it is very clear that those who were at the center of the 2012 presidential campaign are trying to figure out a way to become relevant once again, Trish, in 2016.
Leland, thanks so much. All right, joining me now, former two-time Republican presidential candidate and a man who has spoken at Governor Romney's summit before, Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, good to see you.
Thanks, Trish. Great to be here tonight.
Do you think this conference is doing more harm than good when it comes to actually maybe being able to beat Hillary Clinton?
I think these guys are spiraling into utter irrelevance. I mean, the fact that they're out there trying to figure out how can they stop a person who has over almost 3.5 billion more votes at this point than Mitt Romney had during the entire nomination process. And what they don't seem to yet figure out, yeah, Trump is not their guy, but guess what? They weren't the people's guy. And people are sick of the policies from these very Republicans from the establishment and from the elite world whose policies on immigration and on trade and on the economy and on national security have created a complete disaster in the Republican brand where people don't trust it. And a lot of people have taken a gut punch in their personal economy, lost their jobs, lost their homes in foreclosure. And Mitt Romney, who I don't understand what he's doing, I like Mitt, but he's trying to divide the party at a time when we need to unite. And Trish, what doesn't make sense is that if we want to talk about things a candidate said, could we go back and dig up about the 47%? I mean, how many times do we need to be reminded that candidates make mistakes? Or that even when they don't, they say they're mine? I just think that this is an absurd way for Republican so-called leaders to act.
They so desperately want to be able to keep the House and the Senate. But, you know, I just wonder, Governor, if by criticizing Donald Trump so publicly and saying, look, you know, he's this, he's that, if they're running the risk of actually alienating all of Donald Trump's supporters and therefore pretty much guaranteeing themselves an inability to secure the House and Senate.
I think they are hurting the prospects for getting the House and Senate. Again, they seem to forget that House and Senate members have a lower approval rating than cockroaches right now. I want you to think about that. And for us to say, oh, well, we want to keep the House and Senate, well, then do something that the people want you to do. Stop illegal immigration. Stop these trade deals that are taking jobs from Americans. Build an economy that works for the people at the bottom, not just the ones at the top. I mean, if they really are serious about keeping the House and Senate, then show us that you have some leadership. But what they did, they extended the debt. They paid for Obamacare. They continued to fund Planned Parenthood. They approved the Iranian deal. They did everything Republicans hate, and they don't understand why we're mad at
Governor,
them.
let me ask you, you think about all the rhetoric coming from Mitt Romney right now. If he is so convinced that Trump is not the answer, why isn't he himself willing to run?
Good question. I mean, I think that's it. If you don't like the product that's on the shelf, say, let me put my product out there. Look, I did that. I ran. I was rejected. 16 of us were told, no, thank you. I accept that. I'm not sitting around being bitter and saying, gee, I don't like Donald Trump. He wasn't my first choice. Trish, he wasn't my first choice. I was my first choice.
Of course
but
you
the
were,
people
as
didn't
you should
pick
be.
Me. You know, so here's the deal. Get behind him. We're Republicans. We don't want Hillary Clinton. It's that simple.
Before you go, let me ask you, you're from Arkansas. You know the Clintons well down there in Arkansas.
Yes.
What's your advice to Donald Trump at this point in terms of how to beat her?
Be prepared to be hit hard back. Keep her off balance, which she is not the same politician that her husband is. She doesn't have that kind of nimble ability to take the pressure and blow it off and just keep going. So I think he will have, frankly, the ideal kind of campaign going against Hillary. But if anybody thinks this is going to be a snoozer, they have no idea what the next 5 months are going to be like. Right. Get a ticket, get a close seat, and pop some corn.
Governor Huckabee, we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Trish.